Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now our first story comes from I'm No Best Man and says, my brother 34 male didn't make me 26 male his best man. My brother is getting married in a few months and has put together his wedding party. He's asked me to be one of his groomsmen, and I agreed to it. Just for a sense of background, with my brother and me, we've never been close. Not just because of a 6-year age gap growing up, but just completely different people. Neither one of us understand each other's hobbies or interests. We have no mutual friends, etc., and now we live in different cities, about 5 hours apart from one another. You get a sense of how distant we are. We only see one another on major holidays, and when he phoned me late last year to be his groomsman, that was the first time in about 2 years we'd spoken to each other on the phone. That said, there's no bad blood between us. Yes, we've had fights growing up, but all siblings do. It's never been tough to be around them. We just both recognize that we want very different lives. So back to the wedding. He asked me to be a groomsman, and his best friend of more than a decade is his best man. When my family found out, they've all freaked out. They just keep yelling to him that he's your brother. How can you snub your own brother on such an important day? It's just dragging the whole thing down. He's picked a really logical person to be his best man, and that I'm not only comfortable with, more importantly, he is too. Honestly, I hadn't even considered the idea that he would ask me to be up there with him at all. There's another side to this as well. I don't even want to do it. I hate weddings in general. I hate all the formalities involved. I hate dressing up, etc. But I can grin and bear it for the day, and I will. I won't be a downer on the day that is so important to them. What I can't do is give a speech, as the best man is supposed to do. I'm a horrible public speaker, and if he picked me, I wouldn't have any clue what to say. We don't do anything together, and never really have, so I'd have no stories to tell. Also, I'm terrible at planning things, so I'll be the wrong person to plan his bachelor party. Hell, I wouldn't even know who to invite. I don't know any of his friends. So that's where we are now. As much as I hate weddings, I respect my brother and his fiancée enough that I want there to be a special day for them. And I don't want this crap argument to cast a shadow over their day. I don't want them to look at wedding photos and be reminded of all the arguing my family has put him through for snubbing me. Is there any way we can have a rational discussion about this? I can't even understand where my family is coming from. This to me is such a non-dispute that I can't believe they took it up. There's a solution staring us all in the face that keeps all necessary parties happy. Just don't make me the best man. But our family can't seem to accept this for some reason. For me, I think all you can really do in this is keep telling your brother that, this is what you want as well. You think he's absolutely correct in picking his friend over you as the best man, and to not listen to the family. This is very much a them problem. It's your brother's wedding. He wants this guy as the best man. You're totally happy with it. They're the ones that's kicking off about it. So this is very much a them problem. I mean, you can keep reiterating to your family that, you don't consider it a snub at all, and explain your relationship with your brother and how you feel as well. There's a small part of me that's thinking, is there something else going on? I ain't got a clue what it could be, but just to be so adamant to try and force this issue just seems really strange to me. I can only imagine your brother's going to be hurting as well from, his family turning on him over this issue, which, like you said yourself, is a non-issue. But Night Owl says, it sounds like you being one of his groomsmen is the perfect place in the wedding for you. You know it and your brother knows it, so now you have to get the rest of your family on board. Have you told your family that you're happy with things the way they are and that you don't feel snubbed? OP quotes that and says, yes, we both have. I Hate Mayo says, at this point, just keep assuring your brother that you think he did the right thing and that you are thankful to not be his best man. If I was in his shoes, I'd be annoyed with my family, but worried that your feelings were hurt by my decision. So just make sure he knows 100% you are cool with it. You never know, teaming up against the rest of your family might bring the two of you closer together. As for the rest of your family, try to deflect their blaming away from your brother by repeating, I hate planning stuff. I don't want the responsibility of being his best man. I'm terrified of public speaking, etc. At this point, they may think you're trying to put up a brave face but are secretly hurt, so they're trying to defend you. So just keep reiterating why you don't want the responsibility and would much rather support your brother as a groomsman. Tiger Lily says, I think it's perfectly normal to pick the best friend over a sibling for best man, particularly if the siblings don't have a close relationship. It sounds as if you got your head on your shoulders and can see your family are causing unnecessary drama for no reason. Remind your family it's your brother's day and his decision. Next commenter says, you have a really great stance on this and your brother is lucky to have you. My husband had the same thing when we got married. As soon as we announced our engagement, his family assumed his brother would be best man. They have the same relationship as you. They get along fine when in the same room, but don't really have a relationship and they're not friends in the traditional sense. They also struggle with planning, speeches, etc. It became very awkward when his family continued to ask for months, even when they'd been told the best man would be husband's two best friends he'd had since he was 5 years old. What actually annoyed us more was that they would do this in front of the brothers, so that we had to repeatedly reject him, either by reiterating who it would be, shutting the conversation down, or changing the subject. Having been in the situation, if you would like to support your brother, whenever it is brought up, make sure that you are shutting the conversation down by saying you're honored to be a groomsman and you're looking forward to enjoying yourself at the wedding without having to stress about the speech. Him not always having to be the bad guy will be appreciated. Don't entertain a conversation about it, just respond confidently with a statement so that it can't be construed as open for discussion and move on. I absolutely love it when people come in with their own relatable stories, but OP does update the post and they said, TLDR of the original thread, my brother picked his best friend to be his best man instead of me to be his best man. I'm grateful he did this, but my family is fighting him on it for seemingly no reason. Hi everyone, and thanks for the help you offered in my original post. My brother married his wife yesterday, and things went well. There seemed to be a bit of confusion in one of the comments, so I want to say again, I'm glad my brother picked the person he did to be his best man. I'm honored to be one of his groomsmen, and I'm completely on his side in this whole thing. So the main takeaway I got from my original thread was that I should be the person to shut our parents down when they throw a hissy fit over the fact that I'm not my brother's best man. Quite simply, I did what I could. As I now live in a different city to my family, I'm sure that I was not present for many of the fights my brother had to endure. When I visited my former hometown, I saw what they had to say. I can only imagine that he's had to take more crap than I ever saw. After the comments in my original thread, I phoned my brother to make it clear that I was 100% on his side in this, and that while we're not exactly close as friends, I'm honored to be a groomsman for him. And this, I thought that he made a great choice as his choice for best man. I also let him know that if anyone at all were to throw crap at him for his choice of groomsman, he can defer them to me, and I'll handle the fallout. That his choice for his side of the bridal party should not cast a shadow on their day. I never got a call, but my brother isn't someone to deflect conflict. At this point, I wasn't sure if anything more was said. Once I travelled out for the rehearsal and wedding, I finally found out his groomsman order. I was number 2, immediately behind his best man. Things went well and we were all ready for the wedding. The wedding went well and my brother's best friend did a great job as best man. The bachelor party and speech were legendary. I could have never done what he did. As our parents gave their speech, we both felt there was a bit of shade thrown his way. Nothing in the sense of we're all mad that he abandoned his family and picked his best friend as his best man. More along the lines of family is incredibly important and no friendship can ever be more important than your family. I spoke to them that it was obvious to us what they were talking about, and it was kind of obvious that they were still at least a bit upset. I had to tell again that I would have been a terrible best man and would have turned it down if he had offered it to me. At the end of the day, my brother's and sister-in-law's wedding went well. I proudly stood behind my brother and his best friend. And while my parents threw some shade at the wedding, they didn't ruin it. Fun PS to the story. A kind redditor in my original post suggested I could offer reading during the ceremony or speech during the reception. I didn't respond to it, so I'll take that opportunity now. If I'd asked, I have no doubt that my brother would have given me the moment to give a speech or reading. However, as I said, I'm a terrible public speaker, to the degree that I'm the type to pass out at the podium. Despite that, and without knowing my original thread, his best man made a joke that I was going to make an impromptu speech during the reception. I shut that down pretty quick, just in case, but we all had a good laugh over it. Someone below this related to their own little story that they happened with a similar situation. He said, "I'm glad everything worked out okay for you. I was in a similar situation when I married last year. I have 2 sisters and I asked neither of them to be my maid of honor. I did ask one to be a bridesmaid. The other one, we don't like each other. We don't respect each other. It wasn't even a conscious decision. I never even thought of asking someone who doesn't support me to stand up at my wedding. My mum flipped out, called me sobbing, threatening not to come unless I made her a bridesmaid. It was awful. I told her I would miss her and my father at the wedding, but that my choice stood. 2 days later, she called back and apologized. She said, "I forget sometimes that you are an adult. I wish you and your sister were friends, but I understand that is not always the case with siblings." My parents came, my sister made a beautiful bridesmaid. The other sister left early after throwing one fit in the bathroom before the ceremony, and another fit in the parking lot after dinner. Yay, family. But in regards to the original post, I'm glad that the wedding did go as smoothly as it could by the sounds of it, and it sounds like you had a good time. It's a real shame about the parents are still trying to make this about what they want at all. I find that just trying to get into their heads about thinking this is someone else's wedding and you're trying to force your decision on their I just find that absolutely madness. And I know we see it too often, so I shouldn't be surprised by it, but I still find it crazy to try and get into people's heads like that. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And for a little change of scenery, we're going to go over to the Entitled People subreddit from a suggestion that was over on Twitter from Hazel Nuddy, who says, "Entitled neighbor wants a copy of grandma's will. When my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer, she opted for no treatment. She had watched her husband go through chemo, radiation and surgery, and he was miserable the whole time. She didn't want that for herself. Her family supported her. Over the next year, she gifted items to family and friends, told us to write our names on the things we want, take what we wanted, etc. There were conditions. No, you can't have that. It's a family heirloom meant to go to aunt and her kids, or to dad and his kids. We all knew what those items were and who they were going to, so that was easily settled after she died. The house was inherited by my father, who very suddenly and unexpectedly passed away 2 weeks later. I inherited the house at that point. The next door neighbor, we'll call him Todd, came over several times, upset that he and his kids, 21 female, 19 male, weren't invited to grandma's funeral. There wasn't one. We were all too busy reeling from my father's death and weren't presented with a copy of the will. It only included family members, and he knew grandma loved his kids like her own. She didn't. She complained about them coming over all the time, stealing her water to fill up their pool, and she had to tell them to stop calling her grandma. He wanted to know if I would allow his kids to go through the house to see if there was anything they'd like to take to remember her by. Okay, first, dude, my grandma died 4 weeks ago, and dude, my dad died 2 weeks ago. I thought he was awfully rude, but I offered to let them go through the boxes I had packed that I was planning to donate, and he was offended. I mean, mortified. He said his daughter and son had their hearts set on some items that were family heirlooms, and I literally laughed at him. I explained they were family heirlooms and would be staying with me, and 2 of the items had already gone home with my brother. He said my kids were her family, and she would have gifted those items to them. They should have been included along with everyone else, and everything was divided up. Keep in mind that none of us knew this guy or his kids other than the neighbors next door. They were never at any family gatherings that were held at her house, and the only time I ever heard her talk about them was when she was complaining about them, especially when she caught them using both her hoses to fill up her pool, and then came over complaining because she put locks on the outdoor faucets. Luckily, Todd's house was in foreclosure, and he moved away about a year later. I have more stories, but those will come later. Edit, this seriously blew up. I'm still going through the comments, but wow, you guys are hysterical. The wherewithal to even do half the things in the moment that you suggested. I did want to clear a few things up. One, this happened a little over 10 years ago. We were all prepared for grandma's passing, and while we were sad, we were also, but my dad's passing was unexpected and absolutely devastating. He was my best friend, and I feel his loss almost daily. I'm surprised how much everyone's condolences mean to me, even after so many years. Thank you. 2. Todd brought up the subject 3 times in the year he lived next door, all within about 2 weeks. This particular incident was the end of it. The first 2 times were eyebrow-raising hints where I walked away not really sure if I was interpreting his words correctly. This time, he was brazenly clear, and when I laughed and told him he couldn't have the items he listed, he never brought it up again. Now, this gave me a reminder of a story that happened some years back when I was younger now, and one of my best friends, his father passed away. And this was pretty big news where we lived when we was younger. Everyone sort of knew everyone's business and all that kind of thing going on. It was a very close-knit community with all sorts of different characters that you've probably heard in the past in my stories. And sometime after he passed away, the family was sorting through his various items and, putting stuff at the front of the house that they didn't want to just destroy, but they wanted to offer if anyone else wanted to reuse it. And whilst most people were, really grateful, really polite about it, saying, "Are you sure? Thank you so much." They'll look after it, whatever. There's this one person who's part of a family I've discussed before who had the cheek to go up to this family and say, "Oh, I remember he used to wear this particular watch and I really liked it. Are you getting rid of that?" It wasn't nothing that was left out the front or anything like that. They had the cheek to knock on this person's door and request a specific item. And I remember this story being flung around years later and their response being something like, "You fucking kidding me right now? You're knocking on the door like a couple of weeks after passing and seeing if, because they've seen the free items out on the front, seeing if they can get a specific item." Could you imagine knocking on someone's door and doing that? Holy fuck. But as you've heard from my previous stories, there's some absolute tactless bastards around there sometimes. Loads of lovely people as well. I don't want to get that mixed up because there was absolutely loads of lovely people too. And of course, you only hear about the craziness. Apart from Swan Man, of course. Love to Swan Man. But before we go, let's just hang around the Entitled People subreddit for now because I love this stuff once in a while. Like neighbor drama, all that sort of stuff. I live for it. Naynu says, "Neighbor's mother wants my husband's parking spot permanently. Our car was stolen in June and then returned to us at the end of July. It's being worked on and my husband has had to tell our neighbor's mother who visits she can no longer park in our parking spot. All well and good until today when I'm coming home from some errands. This lady is on our stoop asking for my husband and if there is a way he can extend her parking allowance in our spot. She explains she is moving into the townhouse next to us to help care for her grandkids and she sees that our car as a lost cause. She said that us losing our car was great so she can park closer to the townhouse and not have to park on the street. What I told her and what my roommate/landlord has told her is thus. The car is being returned and instated in October and you have until then to make arrangements. This woman, who I'm assuming has no sense of reality, said the chances of our car even working is nil and that we should just give her the parking spot. Our townhouses have assigned parking and guest parking spots are adjacent. I told her she has to wait till my husband comes home and talk to him. She literally said she won't talk to him and will just take the spot whenever she wants regardless, if we get our car working or not. Car is currently at my husband's father's being worked on. I know it seems petty, but I'm considering calling a tow truck the next time she does this. Update. Neighbor, who is the son of the woman, has gotten involved and sided with us on the matter. He has told his mother to park in the guest parking spots from now on, or do not come here at all. She also lied to me about moving in. Big surprise. So far I was giving a blessing if she does it again to call a tow truck. We did have someone park in our spot, but he asked if it was okay. He was part of a home inspection because one of our neighbors is selling his townhouse and was only there for 20 minutes. And I really hope, which it probably will at some point, that OP does call this tow truck because let's face it, people like that we've seen in these, especially Entitled People stories, they seem to never back down, they seem to never give a shit, they think they're above you, and they only seem to learn from action. I remember a very, very similar story to this in the past, but it was at an apartment block and they had allocated spaces and this car kept parking in this person's spot and they said, look, next time you do that, I'm going to have you towed. And it took them 3 times of towing to finally get the picture. 3 times. And of course, the person after that one wasn't apologetic, wasn't anything like that, didn't see that they was the one that was fucking up. It was the other person's fault still. It's crazy, isn't it? It's a crazy world out there, people. Please just stay safe. But now I'm going to turn this to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Do you have your own neighbor-related stories? Don't forget to let me know. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much for being absolutely incredible. You're a special part of my life, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.